What's going on, everybody? It's time for another YouTube recap. So had a couple interesting things to go over on this one, so stay in it. Let's go. I didn't do too much on the X and the Twitter today for as far as calls. Woke up a little late. My radiation treatment for my cancer takes a lot out of me sometimes, and it's every single day for the next like 5.5 weeks for about an hour. So it is what it is. So we'll continue to go the best I can, my friends. So in my private group today, the Discord posted up this, and I said continued jobless claims obviously went higher. Less people working, which means more jobless claims equals less people spending, and inflation, which give you a fake pop in the market. So I assumed we'd have a little bit of a fake pop here this morning on jobs data and sell back down. And I was mixing this news pop with the technical analysis of gaps, which is, if you watch this channel a lot, my favorite. So let's get into why we thought that was a fake news pop and it would sell back down. So we had some good profits there this morning. 738 on the small account on the Ninja Trader, which means we have officially surpassed $19,000. 2640 on the big account. Good to go. So our $15,000 account on day 4 is now 19,000. So little update there. Let's get into the reason on why we've seen a pop to date short. Okay, so the reason starts from data and yesterday. Okay, so on our fib box, we had jobs here, right? And this is the 5-minute high low. So it looks a little weird on the 1 minute. We're going to keep it on the 1 minute because we need it. But this is the 5-minute candle high low. So you're going to see, obviously, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles in there that are all in the minute chart, right? And the box of the 5-minute Fibonacci here is the precursor for the trade. Now, if price action does get outside of that box, generally speaking, we'll head to where? The 1618, right? And if we break back into that box and stay under, we come back down to the 100% of that box because we need data to fill up the inside of this algo box that the Fibonacci has created. So let's take a peek at some of those confirmations, and let's talk about yesterday. Yesterday. So right now we had a interesting fib box match with MAC. So if you look at the MACD right here, this sell wave is larger, coming back down to price action, lower high, right? And then a little bit of a push. Now, if you notice though, this sell wave is much bigger than the buy wave that it had next. So we're assuming that sellers are still kind of in control. We had a little bit of buyer volume, but we weren't being fooled by that because of one thing. And the confirmation and magnet we happen to find here, shout out to my chat as always, is the 1 minute gap at the end of the day on both indices, SPY and Q. Live gaps do not stay open very long. If they do, it's very rare, very, very rare. 2 in the last year, I think I've seen that stayed open for multiple days. So we got a 1 minute gap here on SPY, and the Qs mimics that as well, not at the same exact spot, but if we go to the Qs here, the Qs also yesterday put in a gap, pretty much the same spot. Obviously the price differently, but you get what I'm saying. Right here, another one, okay? And now we did have a secondary, but that one filled right away. So we had 2 on the Qs, but this one filled right away. You can see right here. So we had 2 open gaps coming into this morning. And I thought, well, what would I do in the terms of the market? I would scam everybody by pushing this thing up over the gaps, and then I would magnet the price action back down into those gaps after a data push, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about the Qs here first. Let's shrink this down. We're not going to worry about that confirmation yet. So on the 1 minute chart, same rules apply. This is the 5-minute box on the Fibonacci, okay? This 5-minute box right here, high low is the end all be all. So once price action kind of scooted back into there, just as we explained in the SPY, if we are under the 100 fib right here, we have an opportunity to come back down to where the 0. And this one actually lost out just a little bit more than that because Qs does put in a much wider range and doesn't respect levels quite as good as SPY. But you know, the benefits are there. So what does that mean? Well, the gap had to have a magnet, right? So this is the trade that we had took today, one and done on the bigs here, where we had the fib box. Once price action came in, we are looking for this gap. This is the gap from yesterday's price action, right? So yesterday left this gap open, 439.87 on the Qs, whatever it was on the SPY. We can look at that too. Scoot back over. Oh, typed that one out. And again, 517 and some change there, 13. So those 2 gaps had magnets attached to them because they don't stay open for multiple days. So yesterday's gap action right here, this needed to be closed from yesterday's price action, right? And as soon as we were under the golden box, of that 100 fib or 0, whatever we drew it, once this was set as resistance for the Fibonacci, two things happen. We come back down to the golden pocket, right? Which, if you use your eyeballs and look to your left, we already did that. The golden pocket was already tagged after data, which means it has to go all the way down to the 100% or 0, whatever way you drew it, and then potentially down to the 1618 that way. But we were only going for the gap. Okay, that was it. That was the only trade that I had today. So I wanted to short anything under the 100 or 0, which is pretty much inside the data candle. So you take your 5-minute data candle here on the fibs, short anything under the top of that data candle to come back down to, you guessed it, the bottom of the data candle, right? But this was that targetable fill. So on SPY, we took a few ES, just wrote it down on a small account, one and done for the bigs, all the way down. There's about 6 points there, sized up enough to get solid little just under $800. And then the big account, we went back long a little bit later down here. So let's explain that long. After those gaps were filled, how do we determine that long? Well, the Fibonacci is still going to be in play as other confirming indicators start to set up, right? Because one, what was our macro? In the last two videos, if you missed them, I'll throw them in the description. What were we talking about? We're talking about the Fib 44 has no price action. Again, this stuff is super important when there's no price action. To the right of it, so here's your 44. And what did I say? If we hold above the double gap scenario, not 3, we'll have a couple of days back and forth right here, but what's it going to do? It's going to push up to where? My call is still a 523.54. We've been calling this for days and days and days. So the opportunity to fill that gap that's intraday that we had, right? And then back onto the long, because we are still targeting up here, 524.54, we'll probably get it tomorrow. For that squeeze up, but that's still the target. So when it comes to, okay, we have a minimal short target, and once that's filled, we should go back to the long biased. This was filled, so go back to the long biased, utilizing Fibonacci, right? So let's take a look at our 5-minute confirmations with this trade, and we'll get to work. So on the 5-minute chart, you see the RSI dipping a little bit here on that open, and we needed it to come back down to that gap first, right? That volume's kind of annoying. I might change that soon. So once we were inside here, came back down to the gap and then pushed. Now look at the confirmation. We held that 50 RSI and never came below, had one small sell wave, and then right back to beating green waves. So once this wave height on the MAC was higher, so this wave, so if you come over and you can just highlight it here, and it gives you the value down here on the indicator. You can't see it because my stupid face is in the way, but once you highlight over here, you'll see a value right there. And on the tallest point, we have 0.07 on the sell side and 0.06, and then right here 0.10. So 0.10, the MAC was already beat out at 9:30 a.m. and we have an opportunity to head to the top side, right? So we have those confirmations on MAC, we have confirmation on being on the top channel of the RSI, and let's look at those fibs. Now, of course, you have to adjust these fibs per what you want to do with them, and we would adjust them to the long side because that is where we're looking for now after the short fill. So let's take a peek at what happened. Fibonacci in its structure, in its nature, is still the best trading indicator you can get, in my opinion. Here's the box pointed to the upside. What happened? Filled up the box, popped over, hit 1618, like we always say, back down to what? 100 fib. Then where? Right to the 2618, right? And continue and continue, continue. Now, this could easily go 520, 521 coming into tomorrow, or even squeeze out late day, who knows? But regardless, our long is still on track for the macro, and we can see right here on price action, we'll do it one more time, how that fib worked out. So we hit the high low of the 5-minute candle, went over the 100 fib, hit the 1618. After the 1618, two things happen. It ranges to the 2, or it comes back down to the 100 fib to confirm strength, to push back up. Look at the volume. What do we have for volume here? Nothing but buyer beats, buyer beats, buyer beats, all tall buyer candles. Buyers are in control. So you cannot be looking short continuation. You're only looking for the long squeeze. And of course, our 523 call is up there anyway. So only looking to that. So once we were outside of the box, look at your fib extensions. Boom long, boom long, right? Okay, now we need a little bit of a pullback. What happens? Well, VWAP, little catch up there. Not quite a tag, but it's there. Now notice what we're at for holding support and confirmation now. Look to your left. We're at the 50 Fibonacci of the 4-4 candle. That's the halfway point. 50% of that candle, right? Because that's what we've been using, 4-4 daily candle. Notice how it broke back over that, came back down, confirmation of support, right back up, all to higher lows, to another higher high. It's just on trend. There's no other reason to look at it. Look at all these buyers here. Look at this hidden buyer right here. Tons of volume closes to the buyer side, right? Okay, hopefully those Fibonacci's, man, they're so clean and so good. Let's take another peek at some of our anchors real quick, just to confirm the last part. We had our 1-minute top-down anchor, right? We can look at both of these right here. And our 1 minute and 5 minute top down anchors, we can use either one. At this one, I think we have a 1 minute on the right, 5 minute on the left. We could either one. They both work very well. So an anchor top down, which means we had a top on the day, which was the high at open right here. And that high, I put an anchor to an anchor VWAP. And that anchor VWAP center right here is usually trend direction, kind of with MAC and RSI. I like to stack those catalysts on. And then especially with Fibonacci. So you see it come down to an extension of pretty much -3 back here. It pops back up, comes to 1. +1 comes to -1, and then we're back over the VWAP. Now with trend, comes all the way back, and it just starts holding that anchor VWAP, that purple VWAP, over and over and over. Take a look at SPY here. Do the same thing. All right, 5 minute, right? Open, big extension into the -3. Recuperated the VWAP hold, push, found some resistance, VWAP push, found some resistance, almost VWAP, shying it away. It's getting bought up ahead of time, so ultra strong, and into new highs. So again, I like to combine these anchor VWAPs with prior highs and lows, stack it on top of our Fibonacci retracement to get as many catalysts as we can to confirm trend, support, and bias at price levels. So this is a pretty nice, easy, clean day. Another green in the books, and let's look for our final target. Even today, I would say we could go as high as 521. If we don't get 521 and she conks out a little bit and just stays steady here, let's look for that next press up and maybe even get a hyper push back up to 523.54. And that's our final ending target long, as we've been calling the last couple times. So if this found you well and you want to support that channel, we do have Apex code sign up in the description. If you want to trade with me live on our Discord every single morning that we usually can, we're on. Join us in the description as well. So catch you on the next.